What if I told you that the most ridiculous real estate deal in history completely changed the balance of world power? This is the story of how Russia sold Alaska for pocket change and accidentally made America a superpower. In 1867, Russia sold Alaska to the United States for just $7.2 million. Americans called it Seward's icebox and laughed at the stupidity. But 20 years later, they weren't laughing anymore. Let's go back to 1728. Picture this. A Danish navigator named Vitus Bering, standing at the edge of Siberia, staring into a howling snowstorm. Through his telescope, he spots something across the icy waters. There's something out there. That moment, that's when Russia's fate became tied to a frozen wilderness across the Pacific. 13 years later, in 1741, Bering finally sets foot on Alaskan soil. And what the Russians found there was a furry gold mine. Sea otters and seals everywhere. Their fur was so valuable that European nobles called it wearable gold. Russian merchants were ecstatic. This is it. We're gonna build palaces and drink vodka forever. But they had no idea what they were getting into. Fast forward 100 years. The 1860s. Alaska had become a complete disaster. Sea otters? Nearly extinct. Seals? Practically mythical creatures. Profits? Negative infinity. But the maintenance costs? They just kept piling up. Russian officials were pulling their hair out. This frozen wasteland is bankrupting us. And to make things worse, right next door was British Canada, eyeing Alaska like a hungry neighbor eyeing your dinner. The threat was real. Britain could snatch it away at any moment. Then the 1860s hit Russia like a freight train. The Crimean War had completely destroyed their finances. Tsar Alexander II called an emergency meeting in his palace. Your Majesty, at this rate, Russia will go bankrupt. Alaska is bleeding money, and the British are just waiting to take it. So what do we do? Then someone had a crazy idea. What if we sell it to America? Dead silence. Everyone's thinking, are you insane? But then, it actually made sense. America just finished their civil war. They're expanding west. And they hate the British too. At least it won't fall into British hands. March 30th, 1867. The day that changed everything. Russian representative. So, how much for Alaska? U.S. Secretary Seward. How about $7.2 million? Russia. Deal. Just like that. 586,000 square miles changed hands for 2 cents per acre. That's cheaper than a McDonald's hamburger. But Americans were not happy. What? We spent $7.2 million on a giant ice cube. Seward's icebox. Did we buy this to raise polar bears? We used tax money to buy an Eskimo house. Newspapers roasted Seward daily. He became known as the man who made history's dumbest deal. But then, the 1880s happened. Gold. There's gold. The Klondike gold rush exploded, and suddenly everyone wanted a piece of the Alaska dream. But gold was just the beginning. Coal started pouring out -10% of the world's reserves. Oil and natural gas worth hundreds of billions. Plus, Alaska became America's strategic gateway to the Pacific. That $7.2 million ice cube was actually an infinite treasure chest. Here's the ultimate irony. This deal that brought Russia and America closer together later made them the world's biggest enemies during the Cold War. Stalin reportedly looked at Alaska and said, "The land we sold is now pointing weapons at us." So there you have it. The $7.2 million gamble that changed the world. Sometimes the stupidest decision becomes the smartest move, and the safest choice becomes your worst nightmare. What seemed like buying an ice cube actually bought a superpower. What's the craziest historical deal you've ever heard of? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more mind-blowing history stories.